Welcome back to Timeless Stories, my friends. Have you ever looked at a painting and felt that you had entered a dream? The sky is quiet. The land is empty. A clock hangs over a tree branch, but the clock is soft. It bends like warm wax. Another clock melts over the edge of a table. Time itself seems tired, weak, and unreal. This is not a normal world. It is the world of Salvador Dalí. Today, many people recognize his thin face, wide eyes, and long curved mustache. His image appears in films, television, fashion, advertising, and popular culture. To some people, he is the strange artist behind the famous melting clocks. To others, he is a symbol of rebellion, imagination, and complete freedom. But Salvador Dalí was more than a painter with an unusual mustache. He was a child who grew up under the shadow of a dead brother. He was a talented student who was expelled from art school. He was a young artist who entered the hidden world of dreams and turned fear, memory, desire, and confusion into unforgettable images. He was praised as a genius, criticized as a performer, loved for his originality, and rejected for his behavior. And behind his public confidence was a man who often feared loneliness, illness, death, and the loss of the woman who had become the center of his life. This is not only the story of an artist. It is a journey into the mind of a man who refused to accept reality as something fixed. It is a story about identity, rebellion, love, ambition, controversy, and the price of becoming unforgettable. Stay with me until the end, because Salvador Dalí's life leaves us with a difficult but powerful question. Do we become ourselves by fitting into the world, or by creating a world that fits the deepest part of who we are? Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is there, and if you enjoy slow, meaningful stories that help you improve your English, subscribe to Timeless Stories. Now let us travel back to Spain, to the beginning of one of the strangest lives in modern art. Salvador Domingo Felipe Jacinto Dalí was born on May 11, 1904, in the town of Figueres in Catalonia, Spain. His father was also named Salvador. He was a lawyer and notary. He believed in discipline, order, respect, and social reputation. He wanted his son to behave properly and live a controlled life. Dalí's mother, Felipa, was gentler. She encouraged her son's imagination and supported his early interest in drawing. But before Salvador was born, something painful had already happened inside the family. His parents had another son. That child was also named Salvador. He died before his second birthday. Only months later, the future artist was born and received the same name. When Dalí was still a young child, his parents took him to the grave of his dead brother. They told him that he might be the return, or reincarnation, of the child they had lost. Imagine hearing this when you are very young. You are told that your name belonged to someone else. You are shown a grave with your own name written on it. You begin to wonder whether you are truly yourself, or only the second version of another person. Dalí later said that this experience affected him deeply. Throughout his life, he often spoke about doubles, identity, death, memory, and the fear of being replaced. These ideas later appeared in his paintings in strange and symbolic forms. His childhood was not calm. He was intelligent and imaginative, but he was also emotional, sensitive, and difficult to control. He sometimes behaved in dramatic ways. He wanted attention. He tested people. He seemed to enjoy creating shock and confusion. Some people saw this behavior as selfishness. Others believed it was already a form of performance. Even as a child, Dalí appeared to understand that being noticed gave him power. But behind the performance was a boy who did not feel completely safe. His father's strictness created fear and resistance. His mother's support gave him confidence. Between these two forces, discipline and freedom, Dalí's personality began to form. He spent time near the coast of Catalonia, especially around Cadaqués. The dry land, bright sky, strange rocks, quiet water, and strong sunlight entered his memory. Years later, these landscapes would return in his paintings. But when Dalí painted them, they would not look completely real. They would become empty stages where impossible things could happen. His talent became visible early. He studied drawing and painting as a boy. His family gave him space to work. They organized an exhibition of his drawings in their home. Dalí began to understand that art could do something important for him. Art could take the confusion inside his mind and give it a shape. A fear could become a shadow. A memory could become a landscape. An uncomfortable thought could become a strange object. He did not need to explain himself with ordinary words. He could paint what he could not say. Then, in 1921, when Dalí was 16, his mother died. The loss was devastating. She had been the person who most strongly supported his artistic nature. Dalí later described her death as one of the greatest emotional blows of his life. Soon after, his father married his mother's sister. For Dalí, this created another complicated change inside the family. Pain, confusion, love, and resentment became mixed together. Once again, the young artist found himself living in an emotional world that did not feel simple, but his talent continued to grow. In 1922, Dalí moved to Madrid to study at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts of San Fernando. This was one of the most important art schools in Spain. For a young painter, it seemed like the perfect opportunity. He would study technique, meet other artists, and prepare for a serious career. But Dalí did not enter the academy quietly. He arrived with long hair, unusual clothes, and the confidence of someone who had already decided that he was different. In Madrid, he met young writers and artists who would become important figures in Spanish culture. Among them were the poet Federico Garcia Lorca and the filmmaker Luis Buñuel. These friendships opened Dalí's mind to new ideas. He discussed poetry, cinema, philosophy, politics, sexuality, religion, and modern art. At first, Dalí experimented with many styles. He studied the old masters. He learned from Impressionism, Cubism, and other modern movements. His technical ability was strong. He could paint realistically when he wanted to. This point is important. Dalí did not create strange paintings because he lacked skill. He created them after learning traditional skill. He understood the rules before he broke them. However, his relationship with the Academy became difficult. Dalí disliked authority. He did not want teachers to define his ability. He was suspended after taking part in student unrest. Later, in 1926, shortly before his final examinations, he was expelled. According to the famous story, Dalí declared that the professors were not competent enough to judge him. Whether this statement came from courage, arrogance, or both, it revealed something central about his personality. He believed deeply in his own importance. Many people are destroyed by rejection. Dalí used rejection as evidence that the system could not understand him. This belief protected him, but it also made him difficult. After leaving the Academy, he traveled to Paris. There, he met Pablo Picasso. Picasso was already famous and had helped transform modern art. Dalí respected him greatly. The meeting gave the young painter a stronger connection to the world of European modernism. But Dalí was still searching for a language that belonged completely to him. That language appeared when he discovered Surrealism. Surrealism was more than a style of painting. It was a movement that explored dreams, the unconscious mind, irrational thoughts, hidden desire, fear, and imagination. The Surrealists were influenced by the ideas of Sigmund Freud, who believed that dreams could reveal secret parts of the human mind. For Dalí, this was perfect. His inner world was already filled with strange symbols and strong emotions. Surrealism gave him permission to make that world visible. He began painting empty landscapes filled with impossible objects. Human bodies became soft, broken, stretched, or transformed. Insects appeared beside faces. Drawers opened from bodies. Food, animals, rocks, shadows, and machines entered scenes that felt both real and unreal. Dalí developed what he called the paranoiac critical method. The name sounded scientific, but the idea was imaginative. He tried to enter a mental state in which one object could appear to become another. A group of people might also look like a face. A rock might look like an animal. A shadow might suggest a hidden figure. Dalí wanted to create images with multiple meanings. He wanted the viewer to doubt what the eyes were seeing. This was not simply decoration. It was a way of questioning reality itself. Then, in 1929, Dalí met the woman who would change his life. Her name was Elena Ivanovna Diakonova, but she was known as Gala. She was older than Dalí and was married to the poet Paul Éluard when they met. Gala was intelligent, practical, strong, and emotionally complex. Dalí became intensely attached to her. Their relationship shocked many people, including his family. But for Dalí, Gala became more than a lover. She became his muse, manager, protector, business partner, and emotional center. Dalí's mind could be chaotic. Gala brought organization. Dalí created images. Gala negotiated, planned, protected, and helped build his career. He often painted her. He gave her a nearly sacred place in his private mythology. For many years, he spoke as if his identity and success could not be separated from her. At the same time, his relationship with his father became worse. Dalí's father strongly disapproved of his behavior and his relationship with Gala. The conflict became so severe that Dalí was pushed away from the family home. This was another break from authority. Once again, he lost belonging but gained freedom. In the early 1930s, Dalí created the painting that would become his most famous work. It was called The Persistence of Memory. The painting is small, but its impact is enormous. It shows a quiet coastal landscape. The light is clear. The scene feels silent, but several clocks are soft and melting. One clock hangs over a dead tree branch. Another falls over the edge of a platform. A strange sleeping form lies in the center. Ants gather on another clock. Everything is still, but time seems to be collapsing. What does the painting mean? Dalí did not give one simple answer. Some viewers connect the soft clocks to dreams. Others see them as a symbol of the weakness of human ideas about time. Some connect them to memory, mortality, decay, or the way time feels different when we sleep. The power of the painting comes from its uncertainty. It feels familiar and impossible at the same time. When people saw it, many were fascinated. Dalí had found an image the world could not forget. His fame grew quickly. But Dalí understood that paintings alone were not the only way to build a legend. He turned himself into a public work of art. His mustache became longer and more dramatic. His clothes became theatrical. His eyes opened wide for photographs. He made shocking statements. He appeared in public with strange objects and animals. He understood the power of the camera, the newspaper, the interview, and the audience. Long before modern social media, Dalí knew how to create a personal brand. He made people ask the same question again and again. Is this man a genius, or is he performing madness? Perhaps the answer was both. Dalí's public behavior made him famous beyond the art world. He worked with film. He collaborated with Luis Buñuel on the surreal films Un Chien Andalou and L'Âge d'Or. These films shocked audiences with disturbing, dreamlike images. Years later, Dalí also worked with Alfred Hitchcock on a dream sequence for the film Spellbound. He collaborated with Walt Disney on an animated project called Destino. He worked in fashion, photography, theater, jewelry, design, and advertising. To Dalí, there was no strong border between fine art and popular culture. A painting, a film, a shop window, a piece of jewelry, or a public appearance could all become part of his world. This freedom made him influential. It also made some artists suspicious. The Surrealist movement was not only artistic. Many members were strongly political. Dalí avoided making the political commitments they demanded. His attitude toward fascism, especially during the rise of Adolf Hitler, created serious controversy. Some surrealists believed he treated dangerous political subjects as visual fascination instead of moral questions. The group's leader, André Breton, grew increasingly hostile toward him. Dalí was eventually expelled from the official Surrealist group, but he refused to accept that others could remove Surrealism from his identity. He famously declared, "I am Surrealism." This sentence contained everything people admired and disliked about him. It was bold. It was memorable. It was also deeply arrogant. Dalí did not want to belong to a movement. He wanted the movement to belong to him. During the Spanish Civil War and the Second World War, Dalí and Gala spent time outside Spain. They lived in the United States for several years. America gave Dalí a new kind of audience. Collectors, journalists, filmmakers, designers, and wealthy clients were fascinated by him. He became extremely successful. But success created another criticism. André Breton rearranged the letters in Dalí's name to create the nickname Avida Dollars, suggesting that Dalí had become hungry for money. To his critics, he had betrayed serious art and turned himself into a commercial entertainer. Dalí did not seem ashamed. He enjoyed wealth, fame, luxury, and attention. He accepted commercial work. He designed advertisements. He appeared on television. He understood that scandal could keep his name alive. But this raises a difficult question. Was Dalí protecting his artistic freedom or selling his image? Was he expanding the meaning of art or using art to feed his ego? The answer may depend on the viewer. What is clear is that Dalí refused to separate creation from ambition. He wanted to make art. He also wanted history to remember the name Salvador Dalí. After the war, his art changed. He became increasingly interested in religion, science, mathematics, nuclear physics, and classical painting. He called this new direction nuclear mysticism. The atomic bomb had shown that solid matter was not as stable as it appeared. For Dalí, this scientific idea connected with his lifelong belief that reality could break apart. In later paintings, bodies and objects float in space. Religious scenes appear with geometric structures. Classical technique mixes with modern science and personal symbolism. Some critics preferred his earlier surrealist work. Others admired the ambition of his later paintings. Dalí continued to surprise people. He did not want to repeat one successful style forever. He wanted to remain unpredictable. He also began building one of the greatest monuments to his own identity. In Figueres, his hometown, he created the Dalí Theatre-Museum. The building was developed from the ruins of an old theater that had been damaged during the Spanish Civil War. Dalí transformed it into a strange and immersive world. It contained paintings, sculptures, furniture, optical illusions, unusual rooms, and unexpected objects. The museum was not designed as a quiet place where visitors simply looked at pictures on white walls. It was designed as an experience inside Dalí's imagination. In a way, the museum became his largest self-portrait. It said to the world, "This is not only my art, this is my universe." Yet the later years of Dalí's life became darker. His relationship with Gala was powerful, but it was not simple. They had an unusual and sometimes painful marriage. Gala spent long periods away from him. Dalí gave her a castle in Pubol and could visit only with her permission. Their bond contained love, dependence, distance, jealousy, control, and mystery. Still, Gala remained central to him. When she died in 1982, Dalí was devastated. The man who had built an identity around performance and confidence became increasingly silent and weak. His health had already begun to decline. His hands trembled. Painting became more difficult. He withdrew from public life. After Gala's death, he moved to the castle at Pubol. There, he lived with grief and physical decline. A fire in his bedroom in 1984 left him injured. Questions also grew around the people managing his care and his work. Because Dalí had become so famous and his paintings were so valuable, money and authenticity became serious concerns. There were accusations that blank sheets bearing his signature had entered the art market. Experts later had to examine many works connected to his name. The final years of a great artist were surrounded not only by illness, but by uncertainty over who controlled his legacy. Eventually, Dalí returned to Figueres. He lived in the tower of his museum. The building that celebrated his imagination became the place where his life moved toward its end. Salvador Dalí died on January 23, 1989. He was 84 years old. He was buried beneath the stage of the Dalí Theatre-Museum. This ending feels almost designed by Dalí himself. The child who had once visited a grave carrying his own name was buried inside a monument carrying his own imagination. The artist became part of the artwork. The performer became part of the stage, and the name he had worked so hard to make unforgettable remained alive. Today, Dalí's influence can be seen far beyond painting. His melting clocks are among the most recognizable images in modern art. His style appears in cinema, fashion, photography, music videos, advertising, animation, and digital culture. His face became a symbol used by later generations, sometimes in ways that had little connection to his real life. But his deeper influence is not only visual. Dalí showed that an artist could create a complete identity. He understood that people remember not only what you make, but also the story they connect to the person who made it. This lesson has inspired artists, performers, designers, and public figures across the world. Yet Dalí's life should not be reduced to a simple message like, be different. Difference alone does not create greatness. Dalí spent years learning technique. He studied history. He examined the old masters. He worked with extreme discipline. Behind the strange behavior was serious ability. Behind the public performance was a painter who understood detail, composition, color, perspective, and visual symbolism. His originality was powerful because it was supported by skill. His confidence was effective because he could create work that people could not easily forget. But his life also warns us about the dangers of building a personality too large to control. When every action becomes a performance, it can become difficult to know where the performance ends and the person begins. Did Dalí use his public image, or did the image slowly begin to use him? Did he create the mustache, the wide eyes, the shocking statements, and the legend? Or did the legend become a prison he could never leave? Perhaps even Dalí did not know. At the beginning of his life, he struggled with the idea that he might be the return of his dead brother. He spent his whole career creating a self so original that no one could confuse him with another person. Mein Diesen, maybe his extreme identity was not only ambition. Maybe it was also protection. Maybe every strange photograph, every impossible painting, and every dramatic statement was saying the same thing. I am Salvador Dalí. I am not a copy. I am not a replacement. I exist, and I will not disappear. This is what makes his story more emotional than the famous mustache or melting clocks. Behind the humor, shock, confidence, and controversy was a human fear, the fear of being forgotten. Dalí fought that fear with imagination. He turned memory into soft clocks. He turned dreams into landscapes. He turned anxiety into symbols. He turned himself into a legend. My friends, Salvador Dalí was not a perfect man. He could be selfish. He could be arrogant. He sometimes cared more about attention than kindness. His political choices and public behavior remain controversial. His relationship with money, fame, and power continues to divide people, but perfection was never the lesson of his life. The lesson is that originality requires courage, but it also requires work. You do not become unforgettable by acting strange for one day. You become unforgettable by learning deeply, creating honestly, and continuing until your inner world has a form no one else could have made. Dalí did not ask the world for permission to imagine. He took the private language of dreams and placed it on a public canvas. He showed that reality is not only what stands in front of our eyes. Reality is also memory. Reality is fear. Reality is desire. Reality is the strange picture that appears just before sleep. And sometimes, the things that look most impossible can reveal something true about the human mind. So the next time you see one of Dalí's melting clocks, do not only ask why the clock is soft, ask what happens to time inside your own memory. Think about a happy hour that seemed to pass in minutes. Think about a painful minute that felt like an entire day. Think about how childhood can remain alive inside an adult. Think about how one loss can shape a lifetime. Perhaps time was never as solid as we believed. Perhaps Dalí understood that our minds do not experience reality in straight lines. His paintings still speak because our dreams are still strange. Our fears are still hidden. Our memories are still changing. And every person still carries an inner world that no one else can see completely. Salvador Dalí spent his life making that invisible world visible. That was his gift. That was his rebellion. And perhaps that was also his escape. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments which part of Salvador Dalí's life surprised you the most. Was it the grave of the brother who shared his name? Was it his expulsion from art school? Was it the creation of the melting clocks? Or was it the lonely ending inside the museum he built for himself? If you enjoyed this journey, please like the video and subscribe to Timeless Stories. Keep learning, keep questioning what seems normal, and never be afraid to give your imagination a voice. Thank you for listening, my friends. I will see you in the next Timeless Story.